Quadrado coming up on the left hand side. It says, for Hawthorne Home, here we fought until the death in July 1558. What we're going to do is get off the coach just down here, walk across Pine Square here, Plaza de los Pinos. I'll show you where we're meeting at what time, and then we'll walk as far as the main Bourne Square. I'll then be pointing out various things to you. You'll be looking over the harbour wall down into the tiny little harbour. You can leave anything on the coach you wish. Please make sure that you have the things that you require for the next half. Then I'll show you where everything is. If you can't say Plaza de los Pinos, which is the Menorcan for Pine Square, just say Pine Square. All Menorcan people that speak English, we don't say Plaza de los Pinos correctly, they wonder what they're talking about that. Much smaller now than it was during the 18th century. The roads either side, of course, 20th century roads, and at one time the water would go to the base of the Customs House steps, that red inverted T-shaped building across the water there. One of the British built red buildings around the island. Many of these, you've got Admiral Nelson's mansion down in the harbour of Mahon, Admiral Collingwood's beautiful home, which is now a private hotel, and many other manor houses around the island that were actually painted red. It is only those from the 18th century, the British Times, on Menorca that are allowed to be painted red, officially. And although many of them aren't, legally the others can't if they've been built outside either side of that era. And this came about during the British times when they didn't want the white line wash that everything else was. And originally there wasn't any finance to import paint, but eventually one of the officers went back to the officers' mess down at the newly being built naval base, that British naval base down in Harbour Mon, and said, I've got tons of the stuff if you wanted. It was the red lead anti-fouling paint that they would use, and so they started using all that red lead paint on their buildings. Now it's tradition that all these buildings are in fact painted that colour if the owners want them to be. Also, that's a reason why towards the end of the 18th century and the build-up to the Battle of Trafalgar, there were many of the British ships in such a rough condition because they hadn't been actually looked after and didn't have the red lead to put on them. I mean, Hon Harbour was the main base of the British Mediterranean Fleet for over 150 years, in fact. Although 100 years when we were the actual colonists of the island, it was a crown colony of Great Britain, they continued to use the harbour facilities for 60 years into the 19th century. Also, this harbour, tiny as it is, just 1.5 kilometres in length, very narrow, and you can get it, 100 or more times over in the harbour of Mahon. Many people have been out of Mahon already. A massive harbour, very, very deep. Here it's deep, but it would only take one enemy ship out of the road to create one ship in here, or two ships. But in any case, they couldn't get the British Mediterranean Fleet here. The other thing is that we have what is called a riscal here, and it's a bit like a tsunami. You all know what a tsunami is now. It's been absolutely illustrated so vividly, last year. But here, during the midsummer, we sometimes get a rise and fall of water of up to 6 or 8 feet within minutes. and it's to do with the atmospheric pressures. When across in Mallorca, they've got low pressure. When here we've got high pressure, the high pressure of the air will push the water down and it will rise over the other side. It's a very narrow channel, just 22 miles apart towards Now's Point. As that front then comes across, that high pressure, it brings that water with it and it comes in very rapidly as a massive wall of water. About 19 years ago, the worst of them happened when there was about £10 million worth of damage done and all the boats were literally up at the far end. The bridge down there was demolished and everything. This year has been the second worst in living memory, when over June, July and August we got hit on many, many occasions, but now they know when it's going to happen. So basically most of the boats are taken out of this harbour and they're put up either on dry land or taken around for safety. But the fast ferry there, which links us with our pool, across the water, wouldn't even come in here for 2 or 3 weeks at a time. And it was literally the pressure they was taking out of 2.5 miles to get around them on their journey in both directions. So another reason why it could be is commercial. But still a very nice harbour for these private yachts. And what it was across the whole